All right, today we're moving on to approximating irrational numbers. For today's lesson, we need to make sure we have our calculators. I linked in the resource folder on class material folder on the Google Classroom. You'll see a Desmos calculator. Why don't you go ahead and make sure you pull that up right now. All right, the first problem. Darcy wants to add a ribbon shown along the diagonal of the rectangular flag she is designing. Does Darcy have enough ribbon? So she wants to add a ribbon on the diagonal, which would be right here. And the question is, does she have enough ribbon? And you can see down here she has 8.5 feet of ribbon, or 8 feet 6 inches. So in order to find out this length here, we just need to find the square root of 74. So when we type that in our calculator, the square root of 74 equals 8.6 feet when we round it. Now I'll just show you that right here. The square root button's right here above the 7, 74. And notice if you see, well, it's dropped the camera, but let me get situated again. It comes to 8.06, or I'm sorry, 8.60, which we're going to round that to the 10th spot, 8.6. So does she have enough ribbon? She needs 8.6 because that's this length. She has 8.5. So we're going to say no. Why doesn't she have enough? Because 8.6 is greater than 8.5. And that's as simple as that. You just, if it's bigger, we don't have enough ribbon. The second one. Now you'll notice the second one kind of looks like the first one. Approximate square root of 74 using perfect squares. Because 74 lies between two consecutive perfect squares, 64 and 81. The square root of 74 is located between square root of 64 and square root of 81. So when we do this, the square root of 74 is 8.6, we already said. So which two whole numbers or integers is 8.6 between? That'd be 8 and 9. Notice if it's 8.6, that's saying, like, let's say $8.60, that'd be between $8 and $9. A lot of people will say that 8.6 is between 8 and 10, which it is, but those two numbers are not consecutive. Consecutive means back to back. When Drake put out 2 straight songs about Meek Mill a few years ago, they were 2 consecutive songs. 2 songs in a row. All right, looking down here at the try it. Try to fix it. It says between which two whole numbers is the square root of 12? So we just put that in our calculator, the square root of 12. It comes out to 3.46. And we could round that. So 3.46. You guys always learned that 5 or more, raise the score, 4 or less, let it rest. So when you're rounding, so 3.46 will turn to 3.5. Well, which two numbers is 3.5 between? Between 3 and 4. All right, then the question on the bottom convinced me, says, which of the two numbers is a better estimate for the square root of 12? So we're looking up here. What's a better estimate for the square root of 12? 3 or 4? And now when we round to the 10th spot, 3.5 is that exactly in between 3 and 4. So we don't want to use that. We'll come back to our calculator and look. If we looked at this as like money, $3.46 is closer to $3. So we're going to say 3 because 3.46 is closer to 3. All right, next one says to compare square root of 32 and 5.51326. When we're comparing them, we want them in the same form. Notice this is a decimal here. This is not a decimal. How do we change square root of 32 to a decimal? All right, so when we find the square root of 32, here's what it equals. And I'll just extend it out. Square root of 32 equals 5.656, and I'll round it to 9 there. So if we wanted to compare these numbers, which one is bigger? They both start with 5 decimal point. This one has a 5, this one has a 6, so therefore this number is bigger. So we could go down here and write 5.6569 is greater than 5.51326. All right, coming down here, we start to get a lot of us get confused when we see comparing these numbers. We have a group of numbers here. They have to be in the same form, just like the one we just did, in order to compare them. So, what's this sign right here mean? Okay, yeah, that just means pi. And then, so when we put this in our calculator, 3.14 is pi. So I'm going to put 3.14 squared equals 9.8596. 9.8596. 9.5 is just 9.5. 9.8 is already done for us. 9.5 repeating. Remember that bar from yesterday means repeating, so that next number is 5. And then square root of 94, let's go ahead and figure that out. 9. So if we look at this, looks like we're rounding these. We'll just round it to the 10th spot. So 9.69, that 9 is going to make this a 7. So 9.7. So if we put these in order from least to greatest, let's look at the smallest one. So this is 9.8, 9.5, 9.8, 9.5, 9.7. So here's the two we're looking at. Which one of these is smaller? Okay, good. So this one's going to be actually smaller because the next number here is what? It's a 5. Or the next number here would be a 0. So we're going to write it we're not going to write 9.5. We're going to write it in the original form, 9.5. Our next number would be 9.5 repeating. 9.7. And then we have 2 here, so this is 9.8, and the next number would be 0 since there's nothing listed. This is 9.85, so 9.8 is going to be smaller. And some of you are probably sitting there thinking, like, well, why did he write 9.7 there? That was actually a mistake. It should be square root of 94, because we want to write it in the original form. And then the last one is going to be pi squared. All right, so we'll work on a couple of these examples together, and then you'll have some time to work on your own.